We're starting soon now, like we'll be ready in just a minute. We're gonna get going. She'll bring you over. We'll just get into the show and then we'll bring you on.
Oh yeah. Do what you gotta do.
So you gotta hide off so we can't see you.
Yeah,
so you're a secret.
Are you starting?
Yeah.
And then read. That's something.
Hang on, we're going. Sorry.
Here we go.
Talk to me.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah. Okay, let's go.
Cool.
I'm gonna play the video. Hang on. Okay, let's go. So we're gonna go brand countdown.
Hello.
We're here.
Reed's making sure it's streaming finally. Hopefully, there we're getting some people that are moving over now, so that's good.
There we go.
Sorry about that, guys. For some reason, I don't know what happened. We weren't able to get the YouTube link to work that Reed had scheduled. For some reason, it was going all.
But it's there now.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, it's good.
We're good to go. So, welcome to the show. It's our third live show that we've done, so it's cool to be here. It's our third live show because remember we did one with the StreamYard stuff. We're doing the StreamYard thing again. So Reed's just making sure everything's going. It is Grey Cup weekend, of course. I am not in Canada. I had some work things come up. I couldn't make it. Reed is holding it down, and he's working on technical issues. But it's Grey Cup weekend. I wish I could be there. I really wish the Toronto Argonauts were there, but of course we took the L last week to Hamilton. I don't know what would make someone think you could trade field goals for touchdowns. It makes no sense, but that's basically what happened. They were just kicking field goals the entire time and never going for the touchdown. And it was really frustrating to watch. Not gonna lie, it's really frustrating.
We're almost there, Paul.
Okay. As far as the other game goes, that was Winnipeg was definitely the favorite all year long to be here at this point in Hamilton. So, it's going to be a great game. A rematch of the last Grey Cup that was played, of course, 2 years ago between Hamilton and Winnipeg. The Tiger Cats with Solely maybe playing. Who knows? It was terrible, but that's me. And I think Reed now has got everything figured out and fixed. So welcome to the show.
Thanks, Paul. I will tell you, when my first CFL media experience is getting a COVID test standing next to Dave Naylor, I felt like I was really in. I feel like I'm official now. So,
are they going to give you citizenship after getting a COVID test with Mr. Naylor?
Well, I have my official CFL media badge, and so I'm good to go. I'm going to wear this. I'm going to bury this. Bury me in this when I die.
Really? You want to be buried in that?
I do.
Your wife is there with you in the background, running around, doing errands for us. So we appreciate her help and her support. And it's she'll have to make sure she fulfills your final wish of bearing you in your Grey Cup media credential. I mean,
how are you doing there, Paul? How's LA?
LA is a balmy 55 degrees outside. So yeah, I'm freezing, but probably a lot warmer than you. I'm just kidding. My heater's down at my house, so I've got to get it fixed. And Shane says, "Welcome to Canada." Matt Clements says it's looking good. It's looking clear. And KJ wants to know what kind of fans you've been seeing around town. What kind of other fans? Of course, you're a BC Lions fan. Have you seen anybody else wearing jerseys that maybe not one of the two teams that are playing?
We got a lot of Ticat. We got a lot of Argo support. Some BC Lions. We went to the Spirit of Edmonton last night. So obviously a lot of Edmonton. They brought the Grey Cup. People were taking photos with the Grey Cup. So that was fun too.
Cool. And you took a photo with the Grey Cup.
I did. I took a photo with my name on the Grey Cup fan base.
That's cool stuff, man. It's very cool stuff. So we got a loaded show, as Reed likes to say, a big show. We got a lot of guests coming through, stopping by, hanging out. Of course, Dave Naylor. Farhan's going to come in. And I just can't, there's just a lot of people on this live show as we get ready for Grey Cup 2021 here in the late month of December. Yeah.
What kind of access do I have? We're going to be there. No field, but we're going to be in the press box, so that's exciting. We're going to be there. I guess they're assigning seats, so we'll get to find out what our seats are. I think they're going to let us know today, obviously, to go tomorrow. So,
hey, can you go to the field after the game, or is it just no field whatsoever?
I think we get to do press stuff after the game, so that'll be exciting. And get to interview some of the players and stuff. I will say, and I've officially buried the hatchet with a friend of ours, Danny Austin. Cool. And I hung out last night along with many CFL credentialed reporters. They have a private suite at the hotel nearby. And so we all drank till very late, had many, many beers.
Many beers. Paul and I've discussed why I wasn't able to make it up to Canada. There were some work things that happened, so I wasn't able to come up. And actually, I lived in Seattle and Salt Lake for years, so I'm very familiar with cold weather. But when you move down to LA, and 7 years after you move down to LA, your blood kind of thins out, and you're not as tolerant of cold weather as you were maybe 7 years ago. So, that's why I'm not there, because I had some work things come up. I wish I could have been there. I'm really mad that I'm not. Chair is empty, and I'm disappointed that I'm not there. But we're gonna have a great show regardless, and we got a lot of guests coming up. So,
you ready to bring on our first guest? What do you think?
Yeah, let's do it.
I think we're ready for our first guest, Mr. Baker. Dorothy. There we go. Matt, there was an option to have poutine sliders this morning, but I ended up having chicken sliders instead with buffalo sauce. This Matt Baker, we have Matt Baker from the BC Lions coming on. Matt, why don't you put your headphones on there, and you can sit in this chair.
Welcome to the show, Matt.
Turn that on. That should go. Paul's on, so we're going to look at the camera this way. I think Matt's in the camera.
Wow, a lot of BC Lions stuff going on here. I don't know if I can handle this. I don't know if I can handle all this BC Lions stuff. I take it Matt believes the idea that BC Lions are America's CFL team, which they're not. But I'm pretty sure he believes that. I can't hear Matt. I can't hear him.
Yeah, I can't hear myself.
You won't hear yourself. You're this here, Paul.
I can't hear him anyway.
You can't hear him. Jack. Yeah, you should be able to hear him. We'll just pass the mic.
Okay. There we go. That better? Technology here, but props to Reed and you for all you do in the setup here. Of course, the Lions are America's CFL team, Paul. Unfortunately, when Reed started that movement, the team went on like a 7-game losing streak, so it wasn't exactly great karma. But
well, it's because I told you they're not America's CFL team. Maybe if he didn't say that, maybe then you guys wouldn't have gone on a 7-game losing streak.
Well, we're starting a movement here in Hamilton. There's a lot of good Lions fans here that we've met, and we're starting the movement. Who do you root for, Paul? I forgot. I don't even know.
I'm an Argos.
Okay, I can handle that.
You can tolerate that?
Yeah, I can handle it. Love the Argos. Love going to games at BMO Field. The fans that do show up are great. No different than BC, really. Everyone likes to harp on attendance, but the fans who show up are outstanding. So good for you guys for doing all this.
It's good to be there. At least half of us are there. And Reed, I can't hear you still. Nope. It's interesting that that's working that way, but
well, there we go. Anyway, so they asked how much free swag have I had from Matt. Matt has given me no free Lions swag yet. This jersey was provided by one of our beats.
I had a package for you when you were supposed to come to the game, and what happened? You couldn't come.
Well, that wasn't his fault. That wasn't really technically his fault. Like, well, maybe 10%.
So I want to know from Matt, what have you made so far of all the events here? I know it's a little smaller than normal, but still a lot of crowds and stuff going on. What's it been like so far for you?
I think it's been fantastic. We were prepared coming in, all the talk about it being scaled back. Normally, Paul, every team is represented here with an official team party normally. Like the Lions have the Lions Den, the Riders have Riderville. Outside of Spirit of Edmonton, there's no specific party. So we knew that going in, but I say it's been fantastic, all that being said. I mean, we had the awards last night, and then shout out to Jordan Williams, Bo Lacumbo for winning their hardware. And I went to the Eastern Social Hall after the awards. That place was hopping. That to me for a couple hours last night felt like a normal Grey Cup. It is scaled back. Hamilton being what it is, there's not much hotel space. So a lot of people who are here are staying in the suburbs. Some might even come down from Toronto for the game. It's about an hour drive. So it's definitely been different, but I've had a blast this week.
What was the CFL awards like last night? You had the players there, the CFL awards. What was that like? And talk a little bit about the players from the Lions that won and like Zach Collaros and everybody else.
Yeah, I was part of the quote-unquote media lockup. So what happens is we show up at 6 o'clock. We get handed the winners, and then the show starts. So that's what that does. That allows all the reporters and everything to get their stories ready. And then once they're announced on the show, they bring them up one by one. So that was a cool experience, just kind of seeing the behind-the-scenes access, what they do, the photo shoots, posing with the trophy. And our two guys, all the guys were, but our two guys I was paying extra attention to. Those guys were just happier than heck. And guys, yeah, we may have had a rough season, but, there's hope on the horizon with a couple solid pieces there at linebacker. Guys switching positions and all that. So some excitement for me at the awards, definitely.
I want to know what's it been like just Hamilton fans here, right? Being loud, boisterous. We're in their town, right? A lot of Blue Bombers fans coming in, a lot of cheering in the bars and stuff. Any animosity, anything going on between the fan bases?
Yeah, well, the CFL, it's a family, right? So, right behind us, we see Saskatchewan fans, we see Hamilton fans, we see Winnipeg fans, of course. They're rivals. When the games are actually going on, there's some trash talk between fans, and there's some little bit of friendly banter going on. But that's what makes the league special, is that everyone supports one another in that regard, because it is a small league, and it brings that family feeling. But Ticat fans, they're into it, man. Like this, I'm curious to see the exact number. Yeah, go ahead, Paul.
There's a guy behind you with a very boisterous yellow hoodie that says Hamilton. It's printed all over sleeves and stuff. So,
yeah,
they're showing out.
We'll shout an Oski Wee Wee to that guy there. But
what?
Yeah, it should be Oski Wee Wee is the Tiger Cat chant. As an Argo fan, you should know that. But
the gentleman in the yellow is actually Michael. He's the co-owner of the bar. We're here at the George Hamilton. And so Michael has graciously set us up here. And so, yeah, don't be making too much fun of his sweatshirt.
I'm not making fun. I am just saying it's very bold. It's very bold sweatshirt. And I dig it. I like the whole print all over the sleeves. It's great.
I see Kyle's in the chat. Welcome, Kyle. Thanks for coming.
Jenna's in chat. We want to thank Jenna, one of our longtime listeners, probably one of our first listeners, definitely one of our first listeners. Hi, Jenna. Thanks for tuning in here on our live stream. So, Matt,
Paul,
what are you looking? What are you thinking? Some of the keys to tomorrow's game are. I know BC's not playing, but
yeah, I mean, line of scrimmage, right? I mean, one of the reasons Zach Collaros won the outstanding player last night and was up there with Michael O'Reilly in the passing lead all year is because they kept him upright. They kept him in the pocket. And you saw how they cleaned up at the awards. And on the other side of the ball, Willie Jefferson, Jackson Jeffcoat, you won't find a better defensive end tandem. The key for me, if Hamilton has any chance at an upset here, they're going to have to exploit that battle one way or another. So if you're asking me what the big key is, that's definitely that.
In the trenches. It's going to be one in the trenches, you think?
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be, I haven't checked, Dorothy actually just showed me the latest forecast. It's going to be hovering near freezing temperatures. The wind is always a factor at Tim Hortons Field because you get right off the Lake Ontario, so you get the wind and all that kind of stuff. So I'm not sure how much leeway there's going to be for these two quarterbacks to air it out. So that makes it all that more important.
I want Matt to give a little behind the scenes here. We had a fun night last night. We hung out with some of the CFL media. I want you to describe, and because I just learned about this, I want you to describe kind of what was going on last night. What did we have fun doing?
You're talking about the FRC suite, right? Okay, so for those the Football Reporters of Canada, that's an age-old tradition where the media who come from all over, no matter who's in the game, to cover the game, they organize a hotel suite every year, and it's basically a hotel room. You can stop by and drink, basically. So we were there. Luckily, it's on my floor at the other end of the hall. It wouldn't have kept me up, but it's convenient for me. And then, so I walk in last night. There's the usual older, writers who still do a great job. Like Darrell Davis runs the whole thing. Farhan Lalji was in there. Steve Simmons from the Toronto Sun, Grey Cup veteran, he's in there. And then look, Reed's here. It's like, Reed, when did you join the Football Reporters of Canada? So it's basically a hotel room where guys just kibitz and have a couple cocktails, and they even ordered some pizza last night. That was great. So, yeah, that's what Reed and I were up to.
Was it poutine flavored pizza?
No, it was. Someone was. Oh, was it? Mooj was very upset that there was vegetarian pizza. Mooj was very upset. It's just, Paul. It's weird to walk into a room and literally have every single person you've been talking to for the last year online, literally all in one room. Literally every guest of the podcast for the last year was standing in that room.
Yeah, you were talking about it. It's basically we could have done a round table in there last night. So. Yeah, well, it's funny how that worked out.
Why didn't Reed think of that?
He's got to be resourceful.
He thinks of everything. Reed thinks of everything. Reed is so prepared. I'm telling you.
We barely got the live show going today, so we're going to count our blessings.
We're counting our victories.
So we've talked about the game. We've talked about the build-up. What do you think about Zach Collaros winning MLP?
Yeah, kind of hit on it a bit there. Well-deserved. I mean, considering who he was up against, was it Stanback he was up against? I can't even remember. So, yeah, typically a quarterback is going to get the nod over a running back almost any time. So, it's a credit to just how Winnipeg is built as well. I mean, very balanced team, solid in all three phases, and the continuity there is what helps him too. So, I'm happy for Zach. I mean, this was a guy before he got traded to Winnipeg. The one thing holding him back was the injuries. I mean, he had a concussion history, made it to a couple of Grey Cups with Hamilton, one with Hamilton, I think it was. Just that classic example of a guy who was a good serviceable quarterback, but the one thing missing from his resume was that Grey Cup. And lo and behold, he lands in a pretty good situation, and that's a pretty good storyline as well. He's facing his former team again in the Grey Cup. So, I think it was the strength of their defense and the running game that got them the championship in 2019, guys. But he's played a much larger role in their overall success this year.
Darren's got a comment.
So yeah, Darren Workman says Super Bowl needs to pick up this type of festival here in the U.S. I'm sure they do. It's just a lot pricier to probably go to the Super Bowl than it is. No disrespect to the Cup, but
no. I've been to 5 Super Bowls. Was lucky enough in my previous job to go work 5 and. Unless you know somebody or unless you've got a bunch of Benjamin Franklins in your wallet.
Yep.
Did I get that? That's the $100 bill, yep. Benjamin Franklin. So there you go. See, I got it. I know my American money. It can be festive at a Super Bowl. The difference is those, the comparables, the people who are being festive, like those regular blue collar type fans, they're not getting into the main events, right? So that's what I tell people. Anyone can have fun at the Grey Cup. You'll fit in. Doesn't matter who you cheer for. Doesn't matter what your background is. You'll find a good time here, even if you don't love the game.
When are we going to get Mr. Amar Doman on our show? That's, I think, what listeners really want to know.
Wow, the on-air request. I guess I have to come through, right? Well, I'll have my people contact his people. We'll see if we can't scrape something together.
We would appreciate that a lot. There's a lot of good vibes around what he's been doing. So we'd love to talk to him here on the show.
I mean, I have some ideas I would like to run by him. I'm just saying, I'm an idea guy. Seems like he's open to ideas. We got some cheers going on here. Paul, can you see all that on the camera? That's exciting.
Are there Hamilton fans cheering with Saskatchewan fans here? Is that what I'm seeing?
That's what you're seeing. Yep.
Now, is Saskatchewan?
You could walk into any Grey Cup week establishment, Paul, and it's Skittles. There's colors of every team in here. So that just gets back to what we're talking about.
I think it seems like it's more of a friendlier rivalry between CFL fan bases than the sports we have down here, because we're cocky, arrogant Americans, and we kind of get a little bold with our sports takes. So it's nice to see everybody cheering and having a good time back there. And again, I wish I was there. I'm so bad I'm not. But
hey, Regina next year, man, book your room.
We're gonna do that. That's a guarantee this time. 110%. Reed's like, yeah, sure, Paul, but yeah, we're gonna do it. We're gonna do it up next year.
Hey, Paul, can I steal Reed for 3 minutes? I have to interview him. I got to get this America's thing going. I don't know if you're planning this live stream for the next hour, but all right. Okay.
We're live for an hour and a half. I mean, I can, you could put someone else on with me, and then you could borrow Reed, but that's up to Reed. Reed's the captain.
Go through his agent. Okay.
I think we're locked in here for a minute. I appreciate it.
Reed, if you need to do that with him, put the owner of the bar on, and I'll talk to him and thank him, and let's get some stuff from him. Let's advertise for him.
Michael's walking around here. I'll get him. Why don't you go track down? Yeah, we'll go track down Michael from the bar. Yeah, he's in the yellow.
See, I'm trying to be resourceful here. I'll talk to the homeboy, and then you could do your stuff with Matt, and we'll just do it live, like Bill O'Reilly said. We'll just do it live.
We'll do it live. We barely got this off the ground where we're going. Paul, have you been tracking a lot of the social media and stuff here since we've been gone? I mean, what's been going on?
I have not been. Sorry, just You understand my work issues right now, so you know that I've been up to my neck in work and haven't been too active as of late with everything that I've got on my plate. But there's our homeboy right there. I see him behind you in the big Hamilton sweatshirt. What have you been seeing that you need to point out?
Of course, everyone's on social media saw Arash's Untied Shoes. That was popular. We've got about 22,000 views on Arash's Untied Shoes at Randy Ambrosie press conference. So that was a proud moment of mine. And then obviously the photo with Danny. Danny apologized. We're going viral with that. That's exciting. We went to a Ticat concert last night, which was remarkable. A Ticat, they had a cover band and they're doing like Electric Boogaloo and kind of some pop songs. And so we were at a Ticat bar. We're collecting all of our wristbands, if you can see on the YouTube, from all the different bars and activities that we've been going to.
Go with your Pitbull wristbands that you constantly wear 8 years of cruise.
But no, the Arash thing was good. We were at the Randy Ambrosie State of the CFL address. We're going to have some questions for Randy later. And so that's exciting. We're going to have Michael here from the bar. Michael, if you want to go ahead and put on these headphones so that you can hear Paul. Now, you're not going to hear yourself, but you're going to hear Paul, my co-host, on the other side. Why don't you say hi and tell us where we are?
How you doing, Reed? Welcome to Canada. Welcome to Hamilton. Oski Wee Wee. You're at the George Hamilton Restaurant and Brewery, which is the oldest public house in Hamilton, built in 1851.
Cool. And we'll let Reed go do his thing with Matt here, and I'm going to talk to you solely, and that's how we're going to stretch this thing out.
Perfect. We'll be right back. Here you go.
So it's just you and me, and your name was Mike, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Who have I got?
Mike, great establishment you have there. I wish I was there to partake in person. How long have you owned this fine establishment?
We've been open almost 9 years now.
Open almost 9 years.
Right.
How are things, and I hate to bring this up, but it seems like you're thriving now. How are things for you going through the pandemic?
it's been difficult, but we're still here, and some aren't. So that's a good thing right there. So
you're above ground. I mean, that's something
right.
that a lot of people can't say.
And Hamilton's going through a bit of a renaissance right now. You can see all the cranes outside. So I think we're on a good quarter. We're here to stay.
Very cool stuff. What's it like? What's it been like for your business this week in particular? How have you been doing business wise? Like a lot of people just coming in, drinking. How are you doing?
They are, and you know what? Many Canadians, and of course Americans, they don't know like the tradition of the Grey Cup and what it does. It brings together Canadians, right? And I can't think of another event that is as Canadian as the Grey Cup. We for the last 2 days, I've talked to people from BC, from Regina, from Newfoundland. They're here from everywhere, right? And I can't think of another sport. I can't think of another social event, another concert where you have this type of gathering.
Very cool. What and now let's switch gears. What are you looking forward to tomorrow in this game?
Well, what am I looking forward to? I'm looking forward to personally a Tiger Cat win. Yeah, I to be honest, I don't terribly mind personally the team. It's more the coach. I don't know if you know this or not, but Mike O'Shea, he did play for the Ticats at one point in time back when I was younger, and he left us twice. So I have a long memory. So
as do I. It seems like we're right along, and I'm a little bit I'm a little bit salty right now because I'm an Argos guy. So seeing Hamilton be there when I feel the Argos might have should have been there. It's kind of salt in the wound right now. But I'm still glad I'm still glad we have a Grey Cup. All things considered, with everything that we've been up against.
That's very true. I'll tell you. Hopefully, the rivalry between Hamilton and Toronto gets a bit stronger. We started. In Ontario, the regional train system is called Go Transit, and we have I can walk up the street here now and hop on a train, and I could be at the BMO field in Toronto in 45 minutes to 50 minutes, and it's a good way to travel these days, and it's hopefully it brings the rivalry some strength.
Okay. Let's get back to the game here a quick second. What do you think would be the keys for Hamilton to actually, because I mean we've been talking about how good Winnipeg is all year. They've been a beast, they've been a monster. It goes without saying. What do you think Hamilton needs to do to pull that upset?
Well, I think last week was proven. We were able to. Our defense showed up, and I think that's required for tomorrow. And I think if our defense shows up, we will do just fine.
Very cool stuff.
Of course, we have the 13th man surrounding this Winnipeg Blue Bomber team, and I think that will play a factor as well. We can be quite loud here.
It's interesting you say the 13th man because I was like, wait, the 13th man, because Seattle has the 12th man, A&M has the 12th man. Of course, you guys have 12 men on the field. So there's, right. The fans are the 13th man. It kind of makes sense. So, Mike, we want to thank you for all of your time, and thank you for allowing us to set up shop in your venue. Looks like a great venue. G. George, real quick before you go, G. George in our chat says, you make some terrific craft beer over there. So he wants to compliment you on your craft beer selections.
That's fantastic. Thank you very much for the compliment. Appreciate that.
So there we go. Mike, from the spot we're setting up in the George Hamilton Bar, want to thank him for his time, want to thank him for his venue, want to thank him for his location, and it's going to suck when Hamilton loses, but hey, I got to pull for the team that's playing the rival, right?
We're coming on hot. We have Dan Ralph, friend of the show,
Dan.
Our Canadian Press Hall of Famer. Dan, you got to come close to me now.
You got
to scoot in there, Dan.
You got to cuddle, Dan. You got to cuddle.
Go ahead and put these on. You're not going to hear yourself. You're going to hear Paul. Paul's on the other end of the thing. Why don't you tell us who you are and say hi?
Oh, we know who Dan is.
Dan Ralph, Canadian Press in Toronto.
Hey, Dan. Good to see you. Wish I could be sitting right next to you, cuddling with you and Reed, but apparently that's not in the cards for me thanks to work. So.
There you go. We get in a lot of trouble right now.
I don't know. You Canadians are pretty friendly. You might let it slide.
Yeah, but we are COVID. We are COVID insensitive.
That's right. There's a lot of COVID sensitivity. That's what stopped Reed from going to the BC game about a month ago. So, Dan, what are your thoughts of what's been going on this week? How's it been going for you?
Oh, it's been good. I mean, it's been busy, but that's Grey Cup week, and plenty of stories to write about, which is always good, and plenty of people to talk to, which is always good.
Very cool. Reed, do you have a question?
Yeah, Dan, I want to talk to you. We were at the State of the CFL address, right, with Commissioner Ambrosie. One of the questions that you had for him was talking about the CFL 2.0, right, the global expansion. I thought that he kind of no-sold, right, didn't really answer the question. What were your thoughts overall on the State of the CFL address and how Ambrosie handled your question?
I'll be honest with you. I wrote that he was long on promise and short on specifics, and the 2.0 was one of many things that he didn't provide a whole lot of answers to. So he talked about, that they've incorporated revenue sharing, but there were no specific details. He was asked about how much money this deal with Genius will maybe project for the CFL. Again, he had no answer for that. Like I said, he was long on optimism, long on promise, very short on specifics.
To that point, though, following up on that, what do you think he could have said or done to give you some solace in what he's planning, what his plans?
Well, I mean, just maybe come up with a few projections, and I just got the impression he really wasn't on solid footing with all this stuff, and either that's a thing with his handlers, or maybe if things are in the communication business or communication stages now, say so. But to come out and say, well, I don't know, you are the CEO of that organization. You are the person that people like me are going to look to for answers. And when you don't have those answers, I don't think it shows very well.
Yeah, you were trying to provide answers in public. You're trying to provide answers and information to the public, and you're not getting those answers, information. That's frustrating.
Pretty much, yeah.
As someone who's also,
I mean, he was asked, can you unequivocally say there are going to be 9 teams playing in the league next year? He didn't answer that either.
How do you not answer that?
Well, maybe because you don't know. I don't know. I don't know. I mean, to me, it was an easy thing to answer. Just yay or nay.
Do you think that maybe he's toying with the idea of the CFL and XFL merger still, or is that?
I don't know. I'm curious to see where the XFL is going with the new league.
We've lost audio at this point. So I'm going to go ahead and vamp right now.
Okay. Wow. Somebody's having fun.
Yep.
No, I don't know what's going on with the XFL and the spring, and other spring entities down south. So I don't know where the status of the XFL, CFL talks are. I mean, that's one thing he seemed to answer quite eloquently, but it was the same answer we got back in April when the decision was made that the two sides would no longer be talking.
I want to know, what do you think of this Genius Sports deal? Them coming in as a minority investor in the league, right? Owning 10%, presumably, with the other 9 teams of the revenue arm of the CFL. I don't even know what that means.
Well, we don't. But I mean, it's everybody's going into the bold new unknown in Canada because we've just recently allowed single game sports wagering, and everybody wants to get on that platform. There seems to be people seem to think there's a lot of money involved there. I don't know. I'm 60 years old. I'm not the person that they're trying to attract. I'm not the demographic they're going after. So I will be honest with you. I don't sports bet. I don't know much about the whole platform, but I do know as soon as single game sports wagering came in Canada, everybody began clamoring to that as a potential revenue stream, and I would expect the CFL would do the same.
Well, that's got, and a follow up to that, that's got to be a situation where they have to provide information on how much revenue that actually generated for the CFL, because that's been our big knock, is like, how much revenue is single game betting really going to generate for this league? They should provide answers as to how much revenue it actually did.
Well, just give me an idea, I mean, because I'll be honest right now, I don't know. Nobody seems to know, and if you don't know, say so. And I just say, but I mean, to say what he said when, we have projections already, well, we're not going to tell you. Really?
Yeah. Interesting.
I mean, just this. We all know this league needs money. It lost between 60 and 80 million last year by not operating. I don't think I'm going on a limb by saying the vast majority of teams this year lost money operating, even with a 14-game schedule. So just projections, and just couch it that way. That this is what we think. Now, maybe it's a bold prediction. Maybe it's our projection. Maybe it's a projection that's under the radar. But at least, you know what? Give us an idea.
We have a question. Did Ambrosie address expansion to the Maritime?
It's funny. I had that on my notepad, but I only got 2 questions because that was going to be my next question to ask him.
Why is that so important?
Well, because it makes Canada whole. It makes the CFL whole in that it makes it a coast-to-coast league. And from, you've got all regions represented. It balances out East and West. And you don't have to worry about this crossover thing anymore. We don't have to worry about if a team folds in the East, that we take Winnipeg and put it in the East like we used to. There's a sense of wholeness that makes the league in Canada. That's the good news. The bad news is this has been discussed now for the last 40 years. And in my humble opinion, we're no closer now than we were 40 years ago.
A follow-up to that real quick, though. With all the financial stuff that's going on, don't you think that's probably what's hampering their issue with expansion?
Well, that, and they need a stadium in Halifax or in the Maritimes, and there really isn't. I don't know, but I don't think that there's a plan, a real solid plan there to get a stadium done anytime soon. Can't have a team without a stadium, and the provinces and the powers that be there haven't started construction, as far as I know, on a venue.
Got it.
The question that I had too, Ambrosie coming out, he puts on a good face, right? I mean, he really says like he has good things, but then when it came to Genius Sports, when it came to the betting, when it came to how it always seems like, I don't know, that's above my pay grade. But if you're the commissioner, that is your pay grade, right?
Yeah, and that's what I was alluding to, that you're the CEO and the face of this organization. You're the people that people like us come to for answers, and we're not getting answers, and we haven't received answers for the last little while. And, and if you don't have the answers, then you know what? At least give me a reason why you don't have the answer. But don't talk around it. Don't, spend 5 minutes and hope that I somehow get lost in what my original question was, so that I don't ask a follow-up question.
A follow-up question to that Maritime thing is Spartan wants to know why do they want to expand to Halifax when Moncton, is it Moncton? Yeah, has been hosting all these games. Should they focus on that instead of Halifax?
You mean Moncton?
I'm sorry.
Yeah, Halifax is it's the biggest city in the Maritimes. It's there was talk when Halifax was trying to host a Commonwealth. I can't remember if it was a Commonwealth Games, but they were going to get a stadium built there because it was the biggest city. And it's, you could do Moncton, but Halifax, I mean, the thing is, when you go to the Maritimes, you're going to be like Saskatchewan. You're going to appeal to an entire region. And so Moncton was, they had a facility there. They could do it. And it was only a 45, I believe, it was under 10,000 seats. The plan was to get a bigger stadium in Halifax, get a season or a stadium that seats 20 to 25, and you could have a parcel of land there to build it too. So, Moncton, Halifax, do it in the Maritimes, but you got to have a facility first.
We had a question here. Do you think the CFL should move to an April to September schedule?
No.
Why is that?
I can't imagine going to cover training camp in April. I can't imagine players being crazy about playing in. I mean, we're playing a December Grey Cup. We have unseasonably warm temperatures today in Hamilton. I can't imagine playing football in April in Canada. I can't imagine having training camp in March to get ready for an April season. I don't see the logistics to it. I mean, like I said, I'm a traditionalist probably from that perspective. So to me, if you want to start it in May, okay, we can talk. The weather's better. You could start playing football in May. April and start preparing in March. I mean, unless you have training camps down south, I don't know.
Good stuff. Any questions in the chat? Let's see.
Well, Kyle wants to know, when can we expect a new commissioner? I mean, when can we expect a new commissioner?
I don't know. I don't know. I mean, if we take Randy's at face value, he's got the full support of the board, and he's and he's doing. But let's not forget, he's doing what the owners want him to do. He's employed and paid by the owners. So if he's doing that, and he says he has their support, I mean, I got to take him at face value. At Grey Cup right now, we haven't really had a whole lot of time to start, doing a check about where do you stand with the commissioner. So maybe after Grey Cup, that's when we start answering that question.
I got my last question for Dan here, and then we have our next guest lined up. What do you think about the exploring the rules here in the offseason? We're going to talk with Naylor and Farhan about it, but, looking at 4 downs, looking at rule changes, what do you make of all that?
Well, I think they have to look at something, and I think there's been some very valid points this year that the level of play has been less than what it has been. So I think when that happens, you have to look at everything. I'm not a fan of the 4-down game up here, only because the 3 downs is what gives the Canadian game its identity, and some of the rules are uniquely Canadian. 4 downs, I think all of a sudden you're going to get more people thinking that it's NFL North, and I'm not sure that's a sell, but I think you do have to look at everything.
All right, Dan, thank you for your time. We appreciate you joining us here on the Markcast. Again, such a pleasure. Thanks again for. All
right, we're going to bring in our next guest here. It's going to be Darrin Bauming and Nick Kowalski from Bonfire Sports. We're going to get them all situated here. Nick, can you go ahead? We're live. Go ahead and sit here. And you can put those on. Darrin, go ahead and come here. I know it's a little not, we're doing the best we can. So Darrin's good button heaven. So you're going to hear Paul. You're not going to hear yourself, but everything's going good. And unfortunately, one of our microphones is going down, but we are live. Darrin, as someone that braved through our last live show, what do you think of everything going on with the Grey Cup so far?
It's been a good week. Like everyone's kind of wondering what's it going to be like. I remember talking to, the Canadian Football League has exceptional support staff and exceptional media relations people in Olivier Poulin. I call him, OP is his nickname. I call him the real MOP. He is phenomenal. And Lucas Barrett and everybody else, Guillaume, and the list goes on and on. They've done a great job organizing things and keeping things running smoothly, because it's all kind of new and wild and different with all the COVID protocols and the testing. And, like when I saw you the other day with you and Dorothy came in, it was like, got to get tested, got to get your wristband, got to go through all these procedures before you can even just get there to do your job. So the fact that that's all gone smoothly and we've been able to interview players and there hasn't been any even minor snafus, huge hat tip to the Canadian Football League for clearly a ton of organization that they did. But look at the vibe going on here. People are having some beverages and enjoying themselves, and we got a great game, a fantastic matchup coming up on Sunday.
I'll add that there's also a sense of normalcy to it. I know you were telling me when we were at Media Day, we had face-to-face interactions, and granted you're wearing masks and the players are 8 feet away from you, but you're socializing. It's face-to-face. It's not virtual. So that's also been fantastic. And there's really been, it seems like really no hiccups from the CFL. Like we were just talking 0 COVID positive tests for the media. So that's a good sign too.
Yeah, for anybody.
So I think it's gone really smooth so far. And I give kudos to the league. It was a big hurdle to overcome with getting the season canceled in 2020, and they really came back strong this year.
Yeah, go for it, Paul.
There's some questions in the chat about from John Burns specifically. He says, "What's this crap about the commissioner and 4 downs on a longer, wider field? Does he hate defense?"
I love defensive football. I know Nick's an appreciator of good defensive football as well. Is it a widespread appreciation? Maybe not. What's popular in the sport? It's tons of passing yards and rushing yards and points and touchdowns. But the 4 downs thing, like, I'm a purist. I've always been a Canadian football purist. I feel that the rules, the play clock, the field, all of those trademarks of Canadian football compared to American gridiron football are important to our game. If you start going to 4 downs, it's going to change everything more than dramatically. Like, it's going to be a paradigm shift in how teams are constructed and built. It's really, I can't even imagine. It's almost like a night terror or a dream, almost, if that's the decision they go. But more people, here's the thing, the more people I talk to, the more validity I kind of sense from it all, that it's an actual consideration. It's a real thing that might happen. It's not just some suits in an ivory tower somewhere saying, here's our numbers, here's the dollars, here's the bottom line, here's our audiences and all this marketing and data. We got to go to 4 downs to be a relevant football league. We're playing the 108th championship in Canada. And yeah, it used to be the Western Rugby Union and University of Toronto and whatever it was. But this is a historic, long-standing league. There are strong roots under all of the things and shortcomings that people talk about Canadian football. But I really wonder what the weeks ahead will bring in regards to that.
A follow-up to that real quick. There's a lot of people that push back against 4 downs and say they'll stop watching the CFL and stop attending games. Do you think that's a long-term declaration they're making, or you think they're like, they'll be back? They'll be back.
Anybody that says, if you don't like it, stop watching it. Like, are you really going to curate a good audience doing that? Are you going to curate a fan base? No. To me, like, I've been addicted to sports my whole life, right? Like, I just love watching and playing and engaging in it all. Football is football. I'll watch college football on Saturday. I'll watch NFL on Sunday. I'll watch, Canadian football all throughout the summer and fall months. I don't care what it is. It's a great quality game. It's different from the NFL, which it almost adds to the appreciation, kind of like what I touched on earlier. That's what I like. Nick's a much younger man, so his perspective on this would be interesting.
I think the majority of that argument, or that push for the 4 downs too, it comes from more so the non-true fans of the CFL, but more like the NFL fans who are like, oh, the NFL is a superior product, so why wouldn't the CFL kind of mimic it? But you're right. The 3 downs, the 12 players in the field, the Rouge, these are all things that have made the CFL what it is for over 100 years. And if you're getting away from that, you're kind of losing your identity. And I mean, I don't think this is going to happen in the near future, at least. I think players are on the same side as we are. That, like, I saw Che Robertson today. He said, like, no, I vote no, like, straight up. He made his opinion very clear of what he feels about that. So I feel like the players are on board with keeping it. There's no reason to change it. Like, scoring was down. Offense was not as dynamic as we've seen it in years past. But I think there's other options and other routes you can take to fixing that. It's like there was, for example, like, just straight up quarterback play wasn't that good this year. Is that a 4 down thing? Like, if they have an extra down, they're going to make a play if they're not even playing good to begin with, right?
That's a very, very solid point. And I think the reason why people have the opinion that the NFL is a superior product is because there's more money to go into players, and they can afford better athletes that can perform at higher levels. No disrespect, but that's what's going on. Like, if you could afford to have, like, Tom Brady come play in the CFL, you'd see a lot better quarterback play if people that caliber played in the CFL, if there were more money going to players.
That's happened before. Like, in the 1950s, the Canadian Football League offered more money, offered more 12-month stability with, employment opportunities for guys. You had, like, Rose Bowl MVPs and, Heisman Trophy candidates. Kenny Payne, legend in the Canadian Football League. 6 Grey Cups, 4 wins in 10 years. He was a DB, a punter, and a quarterback. University of Iowa, Rose Bowl MVP. He comes to Canada because they were paying better. And now he's got 24 grandkids in Winnipeg who are, born and bred Canadians. Like, that's the beauty of the game in bringing people in. But I agree with you. It is about spending money on the athletes, but it's also all of the logistics and resources behind it in the combine and broadcasting, having all those cameras, that production quality. It's just such a bigger punch in the 21st century when you have, TSN does a great job. They have 8K, they do good things, but you got Fox and ABC and ESPN and NBC, like all of them are competing with one another and pushing the envelope all the time with personalities and unique broadcast offerings. And then you can throw in fantasy football and corporate sponsorship and, all of that. It builds on it all. That's why people are attracted to the NFL, because it's right there in their face. The CFL, in my opinion, is marketing is the thing that maybe lacks a little bit in, it's a very Canadian idiom, right? Like, we're not as good, or it's almost like people won't openly admit it, but a Canadian thing is secretly kind of deep down inside. It's, can we compete with the big boys? Like, no, it's not ESPN. It's not the NFL draft, all of that. And I don't know. I think it's more perception than anything, because I know for a fact the people that come into the CFL as fans or media members that didn't know about the league, say 5 years ago, once they're embedded in it and absorbing it and appreciating it for what it is, they see how fantastic a product it is, how unique a dynamic of the media, the fans, the athletes, the coaches, that community, how unique and valuable that is.
The way I view it too is the Tom Brady's, the Aaron Donalds, the Tyreek Hills. Yes, if they were in the CFL, no question they would dominate. No question. But I think that the lower level players, the non-elite players in the CFL, or the elite CFL players, they would do fine in the NFL, or even like the average CFL player could do fine in the NFL too. I think a good example of this is Wynton McManus. He was in the Stampeders in 2019. Not many CFL fans know who Wynton McManus was. He was a rookie in 2019, or was a first-time starter in 2019. He made the New Orleans Saints this year, made their roster. And a lot of that is depending on what the Saints are looking for the personnel. It's not like your raw talent, but if you fit their scheme. Yeah, Tavon Campbell's another good example. He was a backup on the Montreal Alouettes. He got a touchdown last week for the Chargers, but didn't even start in the Alouettes.
Alex Singleton is winning, Player of the Year awards in Philadelphia for the Eagles. And yeah, the talent is there. It's sometimes just opening your eyes to it. David Onyemata learned, like, he had never seen a football until he was 19 years old, like never seen a ball, right? Came to the University of Manitoba to study environment sciences from Nigeria. And where is he now? Well, he's collecting monstrosity paychecks as a great defensive tackle for the New Orleans Saints. Now you're getting scouts coming to Canada from Green Bay, from New Orleans, from Los Angeles, to see the talent that is here in Canada. And I think it starts with the Canadian Football League. Yeah, it's a lot of guys that have played in NCAA elite football, and the quarterbacks have all thrown for 6,000 yards and they're 10,000 yards in their NCAA careers. But it's almost just because the iris is so small on the Canadian Football League, not enough, or the right people don't see it.
What is the one thing then? What is the one thing the CFL can do, and mainly to grab our younger friend over here, his generation's attention, because we've heard a lot of like hot takes about a video game. What is the one thing that the CFL can do tomorrow to start growing the fan base?
My first thought, I'm going to give two thoughts. My first thought is more direct engagement with players. So you got a guy like Willie Jefferson, such an entertaining character. Put him on a billboard, put him on commercials, get him out there. So young kids are like, who's this funny guy that's good at football? And then you see his highlights and he's like, oh my God, he's a great player too. And I want his jersey. And that's how you get the fans that maybe aren't fans because their parents are fans. That's kind of my first thought. My other thought is, and we've talked about this off air, but it's fantasy. I think, yes, the CFL has fantasy, but it's a daily or it's a weekly league. You're picking your own rosters. You're not playing for any cash, which you don't have to, but it helps. This helps with the incentives. Like, look at fantasy football and NFL. a huge reason.
How do you have a fantasy football draft when there's 8 quarterbacks starting every week, right? Like an 8-team league. You know, we all make jokes about like, oh, you're an 8-team league. Oh, congrats on your fantasy football championship, right? Like eyes to the back of your brain rolling in your head. But those are challenges that aren't going to be able to be fixed unless you start putting teams in, you know, Moncton and Red Deer and Burnaby and, you know, wherever else. But, you know, right now there's bigger fish to fry for the Canadian Football League. Go ahead, yeah.
The counter I'll go to that is a 6-team league where you have 6 quarterbacks is better than a 0-team league that doesn't exist. So you don't have to go like 8. Yeah, 8's pretty much impossible. But if you can go 6, that's better than nothing.
I don't know about you guys, but like when I have my fantasy football drafts with my buddies, it's an event. It's fervent. It's like, you know, do you really want that tailback, or are you gonna like wait your quarterback? Like, I don't know if you could do that in the Canadian Football League just with the way the rosters are constructed and the way offenses are run. But again, when I say there's bigger fish to fry, like I recently turned 40, so I'm officially not young anymore.
Congrats.
But thanks, by the way. Yeah. But I agree with you. The personalities in the Canadian Football League are unique because these are guys that, like Willie Jefferson, could play in the NFL. And they know they can. And for whatever reason they don't, you know, they're 27, 28, 29 years old. Well, that window's closed on playing in the NFL because they got guys coming out of the SEC that can do similar things. And Willie lets the personality come out. They know that their brand is what provides them opportunities once their playing days are done. Not everybody's going to be Adam Bighill to be one of the best players in the league, maybe the best player in the league at 34 years of age. It's just too rare. So I think they need to do a better job of that. These guys are cool guys. Yeah, I'm 40, but they are cool. They're cool to you. I know that. And you know, you're closer to 20 than I am to 42.
I was just showing you yesterday.
Yeah,
I'm like,
nothing wrong being 42, man. Nothing wrong being 42 at all.
Well, I was just showing you yesterday too. I was like, hey, look at Nick Taylor's Instagram story, Willie Jefferson. Like, this is some cool behind the scenes stuff. Like, that's from the actual players is doing it because he wants to put it on his Instagram. The league isn't telling him or making that content or creating it or showing it to the fans. Like, that's something that you kind of have to seek out for if you really want to find it. And that's content that I find cool. It's like, yeah, but it's there. It's Willie Jefferson and Alvin Darby dancing in the back room. That's fun. Like, it's just cool to see. It's engagement. You get to learn about the players off the field more, and that's what you want. And,
I don't know why there's fear in that. It's almost like there's a level of intimidation that it's going to take away from the football. Well, if nobody's interested in the athletes, eyes aren't going to be on the game on, well, in this case, Sunday evening. So here's the thing. There was a fantastic game. Winnipeg made a huge upset in the 2019 Grey Cup. And this year, it could be the complete opposite. It could be the exact same thing. These two teams are going to put on a very entertaining product. And I hope people on ESPN2 are watching. I hope people are watching across the globe because it's a great game and it's got a lot to offer.
I got to say this real quick. Thank you, John Burns, sending a super chat through. No one drafted. He wanted to point out no one drafted Warren Moon in the 70s, the NFL draft. The Edmonton team, it says redacted. The Edmonton redacted said, we'll take him. And the rest is history there.
All right, we got our next guest lined up. I want to thank you guys so much for coming on and sharing your time.
Yeah, it was really good to be here with you guys.
Real quick predictions. Who are you taking tomorrow?
Oh, I know Nick's got a good prediction. You go first.
26-21 Winnipeg.
I'm going, the weather looks good. I'm going to say 31-19 Winnipeg.
Okay, there you go.
All right, we got our next guest coming on here. We're going to have Farhan and Dave Naylor coming on. Thank you guys so much. Darrin, it didn't blow up this time. We did it. It was good.
Thanks, guys, for your time.
All right, we're going to get them situated here. Paul, do you want to vamp for just a second while we get them situated?
Sure do. Thanks again, John, for the super chat. We really appreciate it. Supporting, Reed's effort to go out to Hamilton and cover this again. For those who haven't listened, like I had some work issues that came up, and I could not make it up there, but I definitely will be up there. Next year for sure, up in Regina.
Farhan, I'm gonna rotate the camera here a little bit.
Rotate the camera. Let's get Farhan. It's good to see Farhan hanging with Reed.
There we go. So, guys, you're going to hear Paul. You're not going to hear yourselves, but we're ongoing. You came from just live on TV. How's it going?
It's windy out there, man. Like, we were supposed to do a hit down on the field at Tim Hortons Field, and it is blowing so hard. It was a safety concern, so they shut everything down. We're doing stuff in the press box. I mean, it's growing from one end of the field to the other. If it was like that on game day, I mean, the difference between win and against, it'd be as much as you could imagine in a football game.
Yeah, if you were a special teams coach, you would never kick deep if the wind was in your face in this. Everything would be onside. You could kick it up in the air and everybody would absolutely freak out. So, yeah, all of our tripods and everything, nothing could stay down. Apparently, I'm told that, like, little dogs here have actually been flying because the wind has been so strong, and it's only going to get stronger. So tomorrow's not going to be that bad, though, I'm told. So
it brought my memory back to 1994, a game, Las Vegas at Saskatchewan, and it was windy like that. And Vegas decided, like, when they were deep in their own territory, that punting was futile. So they tried field goals, line drive field goals, like from their own 20-yard line. And, teams had to return them, but it was better than kicking the ball up in the air. You don't see that very often, but if they were playing today, we might see one of those.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. I wouldn't want to be a quarterback throwing in this, but to be truthful, it's not that cold because, you were at the West Final last week, and even in Regina the week before that, it was legitimately cold. I remember Zach Caleros' face basically freezing at the end of that game. He wanted to get off the field. It's actually pretty warm, the wind notwithstanding. So, hey, Canadian football, if it's this temperature in the middle of December, I'm in.
All right, so I got a question here. This obviously the good timing come out last night with you guys' tweets. Rule changes in the offseason. Lots of interest about this. What do we know? What are we reported?
I think a lot of people assumed that the conversation about significant rule changes was always tied to the XFL. And that may have been where all the legwork was done, because I think they did a lot of wet legwork on possibilities during that time. But even though that ship has sailed for now, right, I think when you combine some of the legwork they did with the product this year and the defensively trending game and, frankly, the entertainment value not being up to standard, and then, there's just sometimes it feels like it's time for a league to make a change. I think there are people in the CFL that think that now is the time, or at least now is the time to consider serious, dramatic change to the game. I don't know if it'll happen this season, but I know it'll be considered.
Yeah, look, at the end of the day, when this guy tweeted it, he basically wrecked our night, because for the rest of the night, people were all over us on social saying, what do you mean? You can't change our game from 4 downs. And you guys heard all of this when the XFL talk was happening. And look, from the position of the people with the league who also love Canadian football, I think the business to them is more important, and it kind of should be, and it certainly is for me. So we're not saying that they're going to change the rules tomorrow. We're just saying that all things are on the table, and that's the most important thing, because scoring was down this year, and offense was down, and these trends weren't all because of COVID. They started really in 2017. So the league's got to address that, but they're also trying to address the issue of getting younger fans. Maybe there are some fans that just connect more with 4-down football, and there's going to be a decision to be made that, do you take that chance of trying to potentially grow the game and getting some new fans at the expense of alienating who you've got? So I don't know what the right answer is. I'm not married to 4 downs. Here's what I hate. 1, 2, punt. Hate that. There's a way they can fix that. I'm in.
Well, and the CFL has talked so much even this year about the demographics, and anybody who's around the league can see when you look into the stands, right? This league, I'm 54. I'm an Argo season ticket holder. I look around my section. I'm on the younger side, okay? That's a problem. And I don't know the answer to this question I'm going to pose, but I think it's worth asking. If we're really trying to grab the younger generation and the kids and people who are going to be lifelong fans, is it possible that we are not speaking their language when we use 3-down football? Because they learn the game from Madden, right? They watch NFL in college, and then you show them this other game. Again, I don't know the answer to this. I'm just saying we need to consider that that's part of what's making it so difficult to connect to those younger fans.
Christina Dotson. Real quick. Christina Dotson, thank you for your super chat. We appreciate that. Anyway, Farhan, sorry.
No, that's okay. For me, I look at it, and it just disappoints me that people are willing to just sacrifice the league over the rules, right? Like, that bothers me the most, and it bothered me during the XFL discussions. I just think that if you're remotely progressive, you should put everything on the table. We talked about this yesterday, that what if it were to happen that you tried it for a year? Like, this notion of trying it in the preseason is nonsense, because the starters barely play in the preseason. So now you're going to have inferior players that barely understand the motion in the wide field to begin with, and now you want to try to use them as the guinea pigs. That doesn't make a lot of sense. And I know there's some people that believe once you've done it, you're never putting the genie back in the bottle. But look what happened in the NFL with instant replay. They used it for a season on pass interference. The coaches and the football ops people hated it. And they said, okay, we're not doing it anymore. And that's a significant change. Yeah, it's not a rule change, but instant replay and using that technology, again, for me, I never thought they would ever stuff that genie back in the bottle, and they did. So maybe you try it, you don't like it, you assess it, you do it in a meaningful way. Who knows?
The only thing we
I think to that point, though, I think to that point, though, the pass interference, the reason why it failed in the NFL in the instant replay is because they didn't know when they could use it or when they couldn't use it to determine whether there was a pass interference call. That's why it failed, because there were a couple games where it was clear there was pass interference and they didn't use it and they just kind of blew it off, and that's why they just kind of did away with it.
Yeah, it was strange because it's actually one of the, the Canadian Football League has actually become pretty good at using it as to replay. Look, there were some growing pains here, right? But they saw it through, and I'm actually personally stunned given what's at stake in an NFL game and how critical a bad or missed pass interference call can be. That they don't have it. I'm surprised they didn't stick with it because it is really beneficial when you have it and it works properly.
I think as much as anything, though, I think people looked at how it was applied, but also what it did to game flow. And is it worth it? And I'm of the opinion on the topic of something like replay. I don't think they should allow anybody in the command center to ever slow down a play more than 50%. Like, seriously, and I know technologically you can, but if you have to slow it down by more than 50%, it was not clear and obvious. And that's the standard for everything, right? So, just like that, no, that's not good enough. It's got to be clear and obvious. I shouldn't have to slow it down that much. So
I think our colleague Dwayne Ford uses the line, when they start playing the game in slow motion, we can start officiating in slow motion.
I want to talk about Genius Sports. Why, they're like the 10th team now, right? They own 10% of the. What did you? I think it was over under 57 times Genius Sports was said in the state of the CFL. What do we make of this whole new thing going on?
I think it's significant, and look, we've all seen different CFL marketing initiatives come and go, and I think some of us are maybe a little jaded, but just learning a little bit about Genius Sports, a company that works with like 400 different leagues and teams. They're based in London, England. Their technology for marketing, market research, communications, analytics on the game is technology that, frankly, the Canadian Football League probably couldn't afford on its own. And it's a unique, this model is the first of its kind, where you basically cut Genius Sports in for a 10% share of league revenues. And, of course, you got 9 teams, so they've got an equal share. They have the same stake as the teams do when it comes to league revenues. And this is a model they're going to sort of audition with the Canadian Football League. And if it works, they can apply this to all other kind of places where they can help raise leagues up, take equity in them. So there's a lot riding on this for Genius Sports. There's a lot riding on this for the CFL. And I do think this is a significant bit of news. We talked about the league's challenges becoming marketing and relevant. I think they think Genius Sports can really help them get over that hill.
I hear people talk to me about marketing all the time. I'm not sure what it means. Marketing to me when I grew up was, put up a billboard and put up a scoreboard ad and things like that. Well, that's not what marketing is anymore, right? So I'm not sure what that's supposed to look like. And when people my age and above complain about a lack of marketing, it's because they're expecting to see those outdated models because that's what they look at. So here, this is about data, and it's also about targeted reach, and not just targeted reach to watch games, but to gamble on games. So, if you are a player that's here and you played at Clemson, they're going to find a way to reach people at Clemson who knew what your name was, and now you can bet on that player's games. And that's an overly simplified version of it, but that they're going to take the data and they're going to run it deep. So even people who might not watch Canadian football can still potentially bet on Canadian football. And you're going to find different ways for kids that might potentially be new audience members to see it where they consume their social media, whether it's TikTok and Snapchat and so on. So bottom line is that we've had executives that are a lot smarter than Dave and I that have looked at this, that have been jaded by the process as well. And they're viewing this as transformational. So I'm curious to see what it's going to look like, in the next couple of years and what kind of an impact it's going to make. But the fact that they've now got incentive to implement it as Genius Sports because they've got that equity piece, and understand they don't own 10% of the teams. It's league revenues that they're going to get the piece of.
And I think this is the direction of the way the NFL does business, right? The NFL, as we all know, for 32 of the greatest capitalists in the world, within their own body, they're very socialist. They share revenues, right? They have these massive arms that are divided equally. This moves the Canadian Football League a little closer in that direction, right? Between the revenue sharing piece and now what they're doing with CFL Ventures with Genius Sports. And that's what we've been saying for years. Well, the NFL has always been one entity. The CFL has traditionally operated like 9 teams, and they got to start acting more like a single entity, at least on the business side.
Paul, did you have something?
So to that point about the whole gambling thing, we talked about that earlier. I wanted to get your takes on when will you expect to hear how single game betting financially benefited the CFL, and what do the numbers look like if to avoid scrutiny about single game betting being the silver bullet that saves the CFL?
I don't think it's going to be the silver bullet. I think it's going to help. I think I'm going to draw an analogy between legalized gambling and legalized marijuana. When this first happened, everybody thought if you get in on this, you're going to get super rich and, wow, so they're going to open up this market and it's going to be legal. And then all of a sudden it seemed like everybody was jumping in and the market is so watered down that nobody's getting rich. I think some of that is going to happen with the legal gambling market because there's so many places to turn and so many places vying for your attention. All that said, once it matures and settles down, Farhan and I tried during the summer to put a number on that. I'm trying to remember what we came up with. I think
20 million is what we thought. We thought the impact was going to be close to 20 million eventually, right? And it's
teams in league
it's not that you're going to get that money as a percentage of any bets that are wagered, but you're talking about sponsorship deals and things like that associated with betting and data, right? Which Genius is certainly going to be a part of. So, it's going to take some time for it to roll out because in Canada, every province is going to regulate this differently, right? So, for example, in British Columbia, they've got the BC Lottery Corp, and they're trying to do as much as they can to run it through that, but they get money out of it, right? Which isn't necessarily beneficial to the same level for the BC Lions as what could happen when they open it up in a place like Toronto. And, in Edmonton, Saskatchewan, Winnipeg, where you control your venue, you could bring in betting parlors and places to bet in game. So it's going to be different things for different teams, and that's why revenue sharing, which has also been added, is going to be so important. So it's not going to be the silver bullet, but if you can get to 20 million and it's 2 million a team, that does change things.
I think there may be sort of non-monetary benefits, at least that come in the form of immediate monetary returns. I mean, just anecdotally, we've asked ourselves a lot, how many CFL's had a pretty good year on television. And if you put it in the context of other major sports properties like the NBA and the NHL and Major League Baseball, CFL has been holding its own out of the pandemic very well. And again, back to what we earlier said, not because the games have been fantastic this year, right? So when you put it in that context, we've asked ourselves, how many people are watching because they got a prop bet on the receiver? I mean, I certainly know people, in their 30s that have CFL viewing parties that were not watching CFL games before this, so I don't know what that factor is and how much it matters, but that's the other side of it, I think, that can come into play.
Paul, what do you got?
Just reading a lot of stuff in the chat. There's a lot of people going back and forth about like the video game to increase, the footprint. I wanted to ask a question because it was brought up earlier about, league revenues. There's constant talk about league revenues, but there's also talk that people want to expand and include the Maritimes. What are your thoughts?
I'm old enough to remember the Atlantic Schooners of 1984 that were supposed to happen, right? A conditional expansion team. They had the financing piece for the stadium done conditionally on, I guess the last thing that happened was they approved $20 million for the stadium, conditional on them finding a new location because the proposed location was one they didn't think was the best. So basically they were back doing that when the world shut down. There was supposed to be a game in July of 2020. And I remember the principal saying they hoped that by the time that game was played, the franchise is already awarded. You don't need to, Now I just think we are into mystery time. I don't think anybody thinks that it can't happen, but what are the priorities of the province? What are the priorities of the city? What are the economics of the CFL? There's a lot of stuff that has to be figured out to be able to put sort of accurate projections down on whether or not this is viable or not.
Yeah, the owners that were involved in that process before are still interested in bringing a team there, but it's not front burner for them because, as Dave mentioned, we all understand the world has changed, and there was some feeling amongst government that, you could view the stadium two ways. You could say, look, this is going to be a money pit that we just can't afford, but you can also view it as a stimulus for job growth, right? And yeah, and so if it gets seen that way at some point, I think this is all going to still be on the table. But, we went to Grey Cup the last time, and I think they had a naming party, if I'm not mistaken, right? I mean, this was all systems go. So obviously we're not at that point, but it'd be nice if we could kind of unite the league coast to coast at some point. But obviously it's still going to take some time. Whereas 2 years ago, it was a done deal. It was just a case of when.
Where would you put the team? Would you put it in Halifax or somewhere else?
You'd have to put it in Halifax. It's just a case of where. Yeah.
I mean, that's where it's going to go. I mean, that's the biggest city in the Maritimes. They can pull from outside that area, but you're going to need a city of that size to sort of get the commitment. And, they looked at places like Moncton, that. The problem with that is that they just found on the sponsor level, you get to Bill's paint shop pretty quickly, right? And you can't really drive major league revenues off of businesses like that.
John Burns, thank you for another super chat, another $5 from John Burns. He wants to know, should with the new variants, when will we be free of COVID in Canada, 10-day quarantine in the U.S., in the NHL 14 days? Should the XFL and CFL just go ahead?
I'll leave that one to my colleague who works in Canada and lives in the U.S. There you go.
Yeah, if everybody had my status, would be good. You know what? We just saw the COVID numbers. What was it, 1,500 in yesterday in Ontario? So, yeah, with this new variant, I mean, this is our world. So I don't know that it's going to change anytime soon. We saw December 1, the borders were supposed to pretty much open. At that point, as far as testing, you could go down and back for 72 hours and not have to test as long as you were fully vaccinated. And I know on the U.S. side, that got walked back a little bit. So, to try to predict this thing, because we certainly thought 18, 20 months into it that we would be past it. And who knows, man?
Get your booster next week. That's what I'm doing. I'm getting my boosters next week.
I'm 3 and 2 myself. I've got my booster already too. So, yeah.
Well, I don't want to hold our guests too long. We have one more standing by here. I want to thank you guys so much for coming on.
Dave and Farhan.
I have one last question, and it's, are we drinking again tonight at the suite? That was awesome.
The Football Reporters of Canada suite, known as the FRC suite, is one of those unique things about Canadian football. Every time we bring somebody who's never been to it, they say, sorry, hold on a second. There's a suite that's open 24/7 with unlimited beer and liquor and wine, and it's free for the members of the Football Reporters of Canada and their friends. Yes, it is. It's all true.
I am both. I'm a friend and we are all
TV guys. When I was a newspaper guy, I might have gone hard on a Saturday night and pulled off the game on Sunday. As a TV guy, I got to be a bit of a shutdown Saturday night. But Sunday night, in the wee hours, I will see you at the FRC suite. Sometime.
That's the date. Farhan.
Yeah, tonight, not so much. But Sunday night, we also have our TSN wrap party. That tends to go for a little bit. But after that, yeah, I think the FRC generally happens on Sunday night.
After the party's the after party. So we'll do it. Thank you guys so much for coming on and taking the time and running from live hits and everything else. So I appreciate it.
We think it's super cool that you brought the podcast and came to the Grey Cup. We've been talking about how neat it is.
Yeah, no, it's a lot of fun. I'm glad. And hopefully people in the States are looking at this. And you got Darrell Davis coming up next. So he is the grand poobah, the master of the FRC suite. It's actually his room. So take good care of him if you want him to let you in.
Thank you guys so much. I appreciate it.
More importantly, we really enjoyed meeting your wife. Clearly your better half.
Yeah, clearly your better half. It's what I always tell them. I'm like, if you guys ever, God forbid, I'm siding with Dorothy on this one. So thanks for all of what you've done, and thanks for stopping by numerous times on our podcast. We definitely appreciate all your insight, Dave and Farhan.
Our pleasure.
Thank you guys. All right, Darrell Davis, we'll bring you up here. Darrell's had his patience.
Thanks everybody for your super chats. We really appreciate it. Help kind of offset the cost of Reed's trip up there to Hamilton. That's great. Yeah,
we're getting Darrell up here. Any other comments in the chat?
Field producer Dorothy is getting our next guest up, so we want to thank everybody for tuning in on our chat, throwing those super chats our way. We definitely appreciate it. We appreciate everybody, appreciating the live shows as well. It's been great to kind of, exactly. Christina says behind a great man is a great missus. And I echo that. Chris wants to know if Hamilton's twerking out. I don't know if it's working out.
You guys can see more behind me right now. It's a pretty full place here right now. We've got the big closer here, Darrell Davis, coming on. I promise you the closing. Darrell came early because we didn't know what Naylor and Farhan's schedule was going to be. You won't hear. You'll just hear Paul when he talks to you. So go ahead and sit down. And we're just going to, why don't you, who are you? What's going on here? How are you doing, Darrell?
Good, Reed. How are you? It's good to see you again in the daytime, right? After, I guess it was daytime. It was about 4 a.m. this morning. Did you stay in the room that late?
I was there until about 2:30. That's the latest I've been up in quite many times.
Me too, but this is Grey Cup. So you got to play in pain, right? A lot of early mornings, a lot of late nights. That's how it works. So it's a festival, Reed. There's a football game, yes, but it's all of Canada getting together. That's what makes it so much fun.
So, Paul, we wanted to bring on Darrell. Darrell, covered Saskatchewan, Canadian Hall of Fame reporter, like our friend Darrell. I want to talk about some of this revenue sharing. And, we were at the State of the CFL address. You tweeted out, got a mixed, needless to say, mixed response from Saskatchewan fan base about. So, kind of explain the issues here.
Well, revenue sharing has been was used in the Canadian Football League years ago, and some leagues still use it, right? Because there are always teams, rich franchises, poor franchises. So how do you do it? A lot of leagues have used salary caps to balance things out to make sure that the competition is fair, but that doesn't always help the teams that are losing money. So what the CFL used to do is the big market teams that had stadiums that could fill 30 or 40,000 people would make money, and the Saskatchewan Roughriders, who had a stadium with 18,000 and not very much corporate support, they would only be able to draw the 16,000 people and would lose money quite often. So how did they balance it out? Well, the Toronto Argonauts in their big city and the Montreal Alouettes and the BC Lions would take some of their profits and share it among the teams like the Saskatchewan Roughriders. It's switched around over the last decade or so. Now the richest teams are the community-owned teams. Edmonton, Winnipeg, and Saskatchewan are the three remaining community-owned teams, and they're usually the most profitable. Why? Well, they're in markets that can sustain it, I guess, and people feel like they own the team, so they buy tickets. But now that they're so profitable, the Rough Rider fans don't want to give that money back, even though it probably saved the Riders years ago. And they're looking and thinking, well, the Toronto Argonauts are owned by a conglomerate of companies that own Bell, Rogers, two of the biggest corporations in maybe the entire world. They own the Argos, and they're going to receive money from the community-owned Saskatchewan Roughriders. That's abhorrent to people in Saskatchewan who buy tickets for the Saskatchewan Roughriders.
That, Paul?
Yeah, during the course of the week, Ambrosie had a lot of comments about stuff, but he had a lot of no comments about things. Like he didn't quite give specifics.
No, really?
Any criticisms of that? And what are your thoughts about what answers he did not provide?
That's typical Randy Ambrosie. It's typical of a lot of the commissioners over the years. This is my 10th commissioner I think I've heard give that same type of speech. Some of them are better politically. They know how to say something, give you a little bit. The only number that Randy Ambrosie gave us yesterday was 39 games had global players and more than one global player. And you think, oh, that's not much of a stat. How much is this going to make you from gambling? How much would you have to revenue share? Are you going to give the players a raise? He talks around that all the time, right? He thanks us. He's very gracious. Thanks for coming. Thanks for asking the question. But absolutely true. He never gives us real facts. The entire CFL likes to keep its books closed. They're very secretive. We don't even know what the players make in terms of an actual salary. Occasionally you find out that Michael Riley makes $750,000, but nobody else. So that's the way the CFL has always operated, in the dark, keeping us quiet. They think we're mushrooms, right? Throw all this manure on top of us and keep us in the dark, and that'll keep us surviving. So it's horrible that it happens that way. You expect more from the commissioner. We're used to it. So you know what happens right away, because he doesn't tell us anything. What happens? All the reporters scurry around and find out the truth from other sources. And that's why it's always fun. It's like a cat and mouse game at the Grey Cup.
Well, what killed me was Ambrosie couldn't even confirm that 9 teams were playing next year. Danny Austin, now our friend, he was our foe on the podcast until last night. Danny asked, do you have a commitment from 9 teams to play next year? And he said, well, we're playing next year and we have 9 teams in the league, but he couldn't really say. It was bizarre.
I know. Why don't you just come out and say, yes, 9 teams will be there? But politically, it's tough. He did say something that was interesting. Maybe you both noticed this too, that at one stage he said, I have the support of 9 governors. And I thought, I don't think I've ever heard a commissioner say that. And I don't know if it's true. It's one of those things that you think, well, there are probably a few governors who aren't in his corner, but he seems to think 9 governors are on his side. And if they are, then he must be able to believe that there are going to be 9 teams playing this year. We hope there are. I don't see any signs of anybody pulling out, because if they survive this year, I think they're going to give next year a try. So he should have said, as you guys alluded to, yes, there's going to be 9 teams. And if something goes wrong, big deal. At that time, he thought there were going to be 9 teams. At this time, well, maybe there's only 7.
Paul, do we have any questions from the chat?
Let me take a look at the chat. There's a lot of going back and forth about the loan to the Rough Riders in the 90s. They're talking about that right now. They're talking about healthcare right now and milk and cookies. That's all. That's the gripping stuff going on in the chat right now.
Yeah, what do you think about the Rough Riders being bailed out and now them, among other teams having issues now of quote unquote bailing out the bigger teams.
Yeah, it's funny that you're right. The Rough Riders needed the money. It was a loan actually from the NFL. The NFL gave teams, the CFL, a huge loan that allowed NFL teams to sign CFL players 1 year earlier than usual. They didn't have to play out their options. Excuse me. So that's what kind of saved the Rough Riders. And sure enough, but that was NFL money. And as we talked about in the 80s, the revenue sharing, the Toronto Argonauts probably saved the Saskatchewan Rough Riders earlier in the 80s. So now, if you want a 9-team league, they have to share. They're going to have to. I'm not big in favor of it. The Rough Riders have built themselves a solid franchise. They're making money. They know how to do it. And they're talking about sharing those practices throughout the league. Well, maybe you should share some money and just get these teams on a solid footing and make sure that they all move forward. But how many leagues do you hear say, well, we hope they all break even next year? That's a pretty low bar to hit.
That's how he came out, Paul.
You don't hear Roger Goodell saying like, oh, well, I have commitments from Jerry Jones and 31 other owners to play next year. You don't hear that kind of talk either. I want to thank John Burns real quick. For his super chat. His third of our chat. He said maybe COVID influenced the commissioner's answer. Maybe.
Oh, this is a good question. It says MLSE can't pocket the money. They would have to account for how some of that money is spent. Any more details on that? I mean, again, we don't have details, but what would you presume?
Yeah, well, of course, they couldn't just pocket it, but maybe MLSE doesn't put as much into the Argonauts in terms of marketing. So there are different ways to get that money in hand, right? So there are a lot of different ways to implement revenue sharing. I wish he would give us, as we said, he doesn't give us details. I wish he would give us details on what they're thinking about in revenue sharing. If one team says, listen, if we lose $10 million, will you subsidize us a little bit? Yeah, okay. If you lose that much money, then we'll give you some. So give us a line. Otherwise, it's just fearful, right? Everybody says, oh, geez, all the riders' profits are going to be eaten up by these other franchises. And that's not a good way to approach it.
My other question was, if the Rough Riders are making, let's say, $300,000 a year, MLSE is losing $8 million a year. That's a lot. I mean, this isn't like one, let's move from column A to column B. I mean, this is multiple columns A to equal one column B.
Yeah, and what are the Rough Riders going to do without that $300,000? Maybe they had some plans for it, right? They are a community team, community owned, so they like to give back to minor football and amateur football and all the people who are helping them. They're very community oriented. So that $300,000 might be better spent in Saskatchewan, and it's not going to get the Argos out of debt. You know what? They have very rich owners. They should be able to get themselves out of debt. Why not just get it started with a good bankroll and say, let's go. Let's see if we can get things started. Promote the team. We talk often about that. We talked a lot about one of the things that I wish Randy Ambrosie had have talked about was how are they going to diversify the crowd? How are they going to – it's an old white crowd in CFL games, and the Edmonton Elks chairman spoke about that and angered the old white guys, right, like me, who said, well, we've been supporting you, but they have to diversify their crowds. And that's one of the things that whatever the league makes, if they're going to revenue share, use that for a project that might get your crowd to be more diverse and more interested in coming to the games.
Any other things that they could do marketing-wise to expand the audience there?
Well, didn't we hear all about Genius yesterday?
What's your thoughts on that? I want to know your thoughts on that.
I have no idea what Genius is after it's over. We just got tired of hearing it over and over. They're a betting app, aren't they? They're small. The weird thing is that somebody been doing research that the NFL apparently owns a percentage of Genius. So this isn't research I've done. It was recorded in the suite. So, but I trust the person who did it. He's a business reporter who is writing about it. So that allows all of a sudden you can share information back and forth. So now maybe because Genius is going to take an equity stake in the CFL, maybe the NFL is going to have a small stake in the CFL and they can share some of the information and mostly it's betting information that they'll be sharing, right? All the algorithms and everything. It's another typical Randy Ambrosie thing that says, hey, this is a great idea. And then we say, well, tell us about it. Oh, I can't. And there you go again. So is it going to be a good thing? I don't know. We've heard this every year. We hear some sort of partnership. And the next year we don't hear about the partnership. So we don't know how it went. They love operating in darkness. And I think that's still a problem with the Canadian Football League. And it's one of the things that's frustrated me, 35, 40 years of following this league is how little they will share with you. They're like the Canadian police services. So different from the Americans. The Americans, you phone and they tell you who's charged, what happened. The local Canadian police services tell you nothing, and I think the CFL follows that policy.
Video game. That's what I say all the time.
Yeah, I was going to say we have a comment from a P. Alberto Sanchez in the chat. He wants a video game.
I wonder who that is.
Anything else before we let Darrell go?
Real quick, what are your thoughts on the expansion, the 10th team? They're talking about setting up shop maybe in Halifax.
Oh, Halifax would be a perfect spot. It's a great city, and it makes it coast to coast. They've talked about it for years. Once again, I've only been covering the league for 40 years, I think, and it seems like every 3 or 4 years we hear expansion is going to be the secret. It always comes down to there aren't people like Jerry Jones in Canada who say I'll pay $1 billion for a football stadium. You know, in Hamilton, Winnipeg, Saskatchewan, Regina, we have brand new stadiums, but they're way cheaper than the big ones. They're $200 million, $300 million, and so they've low cost them a little bit. But Halifax can't even get one of those built. And until you get a stadium built that's going to hold at least 25,000 people, and the Halifax City Council and Regional Council say, no way, you're not going to have a football team. As great as it would be to have a 10th team in the CFL, especially on the East Coast, it's not going to happen for a long time.
I want to get predictions on the game before we let you go.
Well, I thought Winnipeg was going to walk over Saskatchewan last week, and that turned out to be one of the most exciting games I've watched in a long, long time. Winnipeg is still the better team, and I don't know if you found anybody to say Hamilton's going to win.
I think it's going to be tough.
Yeah, I think so too. You know, Winnipeg's won it before. They returned almost their entire team. But the big question mark, and you'll hear everybody talk about it this week, the hometown crowd. I saw in Regina in 2013 how that team was motivated by the crowd in Saskatchewan. They were the last hometown victors. I think that can really help Hamilton. And maybe there is an upset in the making. But not being a big bettor, I would still bet the Winnipeg Blue Bombers to cover the spread.
Well, Darrell, thank you so much for coming on. Am I going to see you tonight at the suite?
Yeah, for a while.
All right, well, yeah, we'll go late night tomorrow, right? That's what Farhan and Naylor said. Thank you so much for coming, the closer. Paul, any other breaking news comments we want to do before we get out of here?
The Spartan Nitro, I know that EA is not known for innovating. Every year with EA Sports, the Madden release that you get for EA Sports is solely a roster update. That is all you are paying $60 for. At the lowest tier, then you have different tiers of Madden games. So I understand EA does not innovate at all, and it would be nice to there's room there for someone to come in and go, hey, maybe I could do a video game with CFL teams and do things that people clamor for online. Listen to the fans. I mean, you make it enjoyable for the fans, you're going to grow the game. And we've always said that CFL needed a video game. We've said that for months upon months upon months that CFL needs a video game. They need to get that younger crowd. And, integrating some social media storylines with that CFL video game, that'd be great to expand on it. So, can't echo that enough. Frozen Delso wants to know, has Grey Cup Festival met your expectations, Reed?
It's been really fun. I know that they say that it's a pared down, but Paul, it really feels, Dorothy and I were talking last night, it really feels like when you go to WrestleMania, right, you have the ancillary events, right, that like the other promotions. So, we have the Spirit of Edmonton event. We went there last night. There was concerts to listen to. The Ticats bar had a concert we went to. And I mean, that was just Friday night, right? So now we're Saturday getting in. And, there's a lot of other, events here at the bar. So it's really fun to see everything alongside of the actual. And then obviously you have the CFL sponsored events like the Grey Cup fan base and the parties and things they're throwing at the convention center. So it's been a lot of fun.
Very cool stuff. I'm glad you're having a good time up there. I wish, again, hearing all these stories and hearing about all this stuff really, really bums me out that I couldn't join you. But again, work issues.
We got Nick heading out. We got Darrin. Thank you guys.
Thanks, guys. Look, everybody's saying goodbye, and we appreciate all of their time.
Let's get Dorothy on here for 2 seconds to say hi before we go. Let's get Dorothy on here, producer extraordinaire. Let's get Big D on here. We're live. I am going to have to use a facility break here when we get off, so we're gonna limit this a little bit. But we got Dorothy here. Put those on. So you're going to hear Paul, and
much
you're not
better
hear
co-host
yourself.
than I could ever be. Much better co-host than I could ever be. Dorothy has joined us here on the Markcast.
Hi, Paul. How are you doing?
Good. How are you, Dorothy?
Good. I'm so sad you're not here.
I'm sad. I'm mad and sad at the same time, simultaneously.
Yeah.
Merging.
Oh.
John Burns sends another super chat. Again, thank you for all the super chats today, John Burns. He's looking forward to asking Lion fans why they're at the Grey Cup. Are you looking forward to that?
It's a celebration of teams across the land, right? We got another Oski Wee Wee chat here.
Yeah, it's gonna be fun. I say go Winnipeg.
Yeah, that's right. Dorothy has adopted Winnipeg as her team because the UW, the whole UW kind of parallel there. So Dorothy's definitely pulling for Winnipeg. Reed, what are your predictions?
I think Winnipeg's going to get it. I can't imagine a home crowd, even in Hamilton, can outweigh just how dominant. I mean, Saskatchewan had 6 turnovers against Winnipeg and couldn't win. So, I mean, Winnipeg gave the ball off 6 times. I think to 2, I think was the ratio. And if they still came out on top, I just can't see anything. I'm a big Dane Evans fan. I'm supporting him. You're right. And we've tracked him a lot on the podcast. And I'm glad that he is getting the start as opposed to Mazzoli. But I think it's a hard hill to climb for Hamilton.
Dorothy's getting a lot of fans in the chat, by the way. Reed, you married up, according to some people in the chat. So people are happy to see Dorothy, the Reed's better half, come on, rocking a Dragons jersey of all things.
Yes, I know. I felt like a loser because I don't have a jersey, so I need to get some merch here.
And keep in mind, Dorothy is also an accredited member of the CFL media now. I want that never to be forgotten. That Dorothy Cicero is an accredited CFL media member.
I'm so glad that you have a capable co-host out there with you that I don't,
Oh my gosh, Paul, we would never replace you, Paul.
I know.
Come on, jeez.
What was what? Speak up. I'm speaking up just fine. If you can't hear me, it's not my problem. Somebody's asked me to speak up in the chat.
Oh, I was gonna say I keep doing this, like go dogs, like Huskies.
Right, but you could do that for Winnipeg now too. Apparently,
but no one knows what I'm doing, so everyone's like, "Why do you keep doing that?"
I know what you're doing. I know what you're doing. Someone wants you to fix the camera, Reed. Well, it's the end of the show. It's the end of the show. Like it doesn't. We had to go a little bit wider because, we had 3 guests come on for a little while, so we had to change the camera angle. So there we go. Now we've got you in the center.
Now we're happy.
Oh my gosh. The camera's
we'll get a jersey. I have a hat here. William, I don't know where it went. William dropped off a hat for one of our we'll grab it after. William dropped off an official Grey Cup hat. Paul, he's the same one that got us the Argos jersey and the Markcast jersey I'm wearing. So William stopped by the show and got us one of these.
I'm sure if Dorothy turned around, that's a nice hat. That's a very nice hat. I'm sure if Dorothy turned around behind Reed and asked one of those gentlemen behind Reed right there to ask them, "Can I have your Winnipeg jersey?" They'd give it to her.
We'll get Dorothy situated out. Jenna says hi. I see. Dorothy, did you freak out when Reed blew 400 on the Grey Cup fan base to put my name on there? It was Canadian.
Wait, what was what?
$260.
The trophy we took photos with yesterday.
Yeah.
400 Canadian.
Oh.
So 260.
Yeah, and the people taking the photos were like, "Oh, is your name on here too?" I was like, "I don't think so." Should have been the Markcast, really.
He spent $314.33 US, by the way.
314. Hey, it was worth it. Forever on there. I will say that we were at the Spirit of Edmonton bar last night, and they had the Grey Cup there. You could take photos, and the fan base was not there. I was like, I thought that was the whole deal. This was the first time I had seen it outside of the unveiling, and it wasn't on the fan base. Right, because it's like a base that the trophy goes on, and they just had it on like a bar stool with an apron over it. I'm like, I thought I've been swindled.
Well, yeah, we made friends with we were at brunch yesterday. We made friends with the people that run the Spirit of Edmonton. So it was really fun because they were like giving us free admission and drink tickets. I was like, yeah.
We got comped a lot last night for a lot of stuff. We got
is great.
2 bar comps. I will say, walking into that reporter's room, Paul, just imagine this, and I want the people in the chat to just imagine, because we're told hey, we're going to go to a bar, we're going back to the hotel room. So Danny Austin paid for our Uber, right? So we're up $30 on Danny Austin now, and we have Danny Austin and Jamie Nye, Dorothy and I, and then Ian, a friend who's also a media member. We go back to this room. Tim Baines, Steve Simmons, Farhan, Naylor, Steve Milton, Ted Wyman, Tim Baines, literally every single media person that we've had on the show in the last year was standing in a hotel room. It was absolutely insane.
It was really fun. It was really fun. Everyone's so nice and welcoming, and it was just really fun to you watch a show every week, but then to see people face to face. I thought it was cool. So, and yeah, just hear more about who they are and their families and stuff. I thought it was really cool.
Darrin was there and Nick was there. Yeah, sorry, Paul.
My question is Reed drinking before 10 a.m. because he has issues if you drink before 10 a.m.?
No, I have not drank in today yet because I was a little hungover last night. Jim Mullen, our friend, was throwing me shade in my DMs. He said we left at 2:30. Jim says he's been at that party till 6 a.m.
Where is Jim? Why didn't he show up today? Our old friend Jim.
Jim is taking the personal stand against the Grey, against traveling to the Grey Cup this year. That's all I will say.
Okay.
Oh, I was gonna say no, Paul. He has not been drinking before 10 a.m. Actually, I had a Caesar. Do you know what a Caesar is?
Is that a Canadian drink? Is that a Canadian? I've never. I'm like an aspiring alcoholic, and I've never heard of the Caesar thing before.
Well, it's like a Bloody Mary except for Clamato juice, which is like a.
Sounds like a Bloody Mary to me.
Yeah, I know, but I almost ordered a Bloody Caesar, and they were like, "Don't say that. It's just Caesar." I'm like, okay.
Somebody wants to know your opinion of Canadians, Dorothy.
Oh, I think they're so nice. They're so friendly. They're really polite. My mom's side of the family is actually from Standard, Alberta, so I'm part Canadian. Yeah.
Oh, look, yeah. Dorothy is Canadian. Will you accept Reed as one of your own now that Dorothy is? There's some Canadian roots that Reed is married into. Can you guys accept him as a Canadian, as an honorary Canadian? Stop giving him so much crap, please. Seriously, he just wants to be part of your group.
I still have family in Standard and Alberta, so there you go.
Very cool stuff.
I'm going to say before we get too many people dropping off the chat, we'll head out here pretty soon. I'm going to repost the video afterward. Obviously, we had the snafu with the live stream link ahead of time, right? So the one that we've been posting, everyone transitioned over. But if you see the video online after this, please like and share it. I'm going to post it again after. I mean, we're just going to post this, but just share it around. Thank you for the super chats. This has been a ton of work. Michael at the bar setting us up with the stage, running internet that didn't really work, so we're hotspotting off my phone. Dorothy ran to the store to get this cable because we had to. It was, we were down to the wire getting all this going. So I really appreciate everyone sticking with us, and I hope that it was enjoyable and everyone could hear everything. So we've had
one more super chat real quick. John Burns said Dorothy is waving at Queen Elizabeth. I'm sorry I missed that.
Sorry, John.
But Reed probably really needs to scamper to the men's room right now. It looks like he's been doing a little squirm for a while. So we're going to wrap the show up. We thank everybody for listening. Thank you again for your super chats. We definitely appreciate it. And thank you, Dorothy, and all of our guests for showing up, throwing out the Winnipeg W. We're going to call it the Winnipeg W this weekend.
We got like and subscribe. We got our leave us a review. Markcast.com. See, I got all these banners. That's not bad. Look at that.
Paul, I wish you were here.
I wish I was there. I wish I was there.
We wish Paul was here. We appreciate everyone hanging out. 28 people now. I think we had max 35 throughout. I really appreciate everyone sticking new. Jenna, thank you. Frozen Delta, Wayne, everybody. Zach's even on. Thanks, Zach, for saying hi.
Americans know who Queen Elizabeth is. Jeez, come on. We're not that dumb. We're dumb, but we're not that dumb.
I'm like addicted now. I can't get off. We keep getting chats.
I know. Canada is missing Paul. I'm missing Canada for sure. For sure. I will be there next year, though.
All right, guys, we'll be at the game tomorrow. We'll be in the press box. I'll be posting photos, and then I'm trying to figure out what we're going to do next week. I think I've been reaching out to some old people, doing some more reacts of the state of the CFL address and kind of what we're thinking about that. So Tom Mayanek, the people remember he was on a while ago. We might try to get Tom on to kind of crunch the numbers on this business stuff. So I'm waiting to hear back.
Very cool stuff. Thanks again for tuning in. Again, leave us a review at markcast.com/review. Buy some merch. Support Reed's venture, Reed and Dorothy's venture out there to the Great White North. And we'll be here next week with a non-live show. But maybe this might be a thing that we start doing even more regularly with these live shows because they seem to have great participation from the fans. The chat's been going all morning, and we appreciate. I'm saying morning because it feels like morning over here, but we appreciate everybody coming in. All the super chats again. Thank you for everything you've done, and we will see you here again next week. Bye, Reed. Bye, Dorothy.
Bye, Paul.
Bye. Thanks, guys.
Later.
Oh, I'm going to do that. I'm going to do the outro here. I'm going to do this. We're going to be official. And see you guys.